This is the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw. Join the conversation on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Phuket Live Radio.
Hello and welcome to the program. Today we find out which ASEAN Prime Minister is complaining about social media, a remarkable investigative story about a woman abducted from Chiang Mai and taken to North Korea, according to her family, more than 40 years ago. Problems too for candidates in the Myanmar elections to be held November the 8th. And which local ASEAN nation has the best recycling of its water in ASEAN? We'll find out all this and more here on the Phuket News Hour. Lots of news on the way, brought to you by the Kids Club Phuket.
The news you need to know. This is the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw.
A report from Malaysia that the Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak has insisted again that he will not resign as Prime Minister of Malaysia despite mounting accusations against him, blaming the spread of falsehoods and defamatory remarks about him on the use of social media. He also claimed last Sunday that heightened attacks against him were, quote, conspiracies from within and outside the country, meant to destroy the ruling UMNO party, which is the backbone of the national administration and leadership. And according to the Prime Minister, quote, if people want to destroy a party, they will, of course, attack its leader. If there is no confidence in the leader, then it is easy for the party to fall at any time. He wrote in his own blog, just days after Doha-based Al Jazeera television program had revived reports linking between him, the Malaysian leader, and the 2006 murder of a Mongolian translator. Now, all of this controversy grew in July after it was reported that the Prime Minister had received US $700 million linked to the debt-laden firm in his private accounts, although the Najib administration has insisted that the money was political funding from an unspecified Middle Eastern donor. Now, this story from the Straits Times and the allegations against the Malaysian Prime Minister about this $700 million US in an account in the United States, allegedly in the Prime Minister's name, this story will not go away, and now he's blaming social media for the attacks on him. We'll keep following that story here on the Phuket News Hour. More news on the way.
Missed something? No problem. Listen to the Phuket News Hour any time of the day. Programs posted daily on the phuketnews.com/radio and on our Facebook page, Phuket Live Radio.
A special investigation by the Bangkok Post looks at a family of a woman who was abducted by North Korea, and there is a new search plea in play. The family of Anocha Panchoy, a Chiang Mai woman believed abducted by North Korea nearly 4 decades ago, is renewing their plea to the United Nations and the governments of Thailand, Japan and South Korea to bring her back to her home. Miss Anocha's family, her nephew, Banchong Panchoy, 46, he lodged an appeal with Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-o-cha at the Chiang Mai Provincial Hall last Friday, calling on him to look into the disappearance of his aunt. Now, the family believes she was kidnapped by North Korean agents while working in Macau in 1978. She was only 23 years old at the time and would now be 60 if she was still alive. The Panchoy family has always hoped for her return, and they received a boost 10 years ago when American defector to North Korea, Charles Robert Jenkins, revealed in his book that he'd known Miss Anocha while travelling in Pyongyang. Mr. Jenkins, who deserted a US Army post in South Korea, walked across the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, into North Korea in 1965, had lived there until he was allowed to leave North Korea in 2004. He wrote this book, The Reluctant Communist, in which he also mentioned the lives of foreign abductees, including Miss Anocha. During the past decade, Miss Anocha's family have met at least 3 Thai foreign ministers and made similar pleas at meetings with the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. Mr. Banchong, Miss Anocha's nephew, will renew his plea to the UNHCR in Geneva again next week. His father, Ms. Anocha's elder brother, will not be going with him. But a remarkable story about a woman gone missing more than 40 years ago. And go to facebook.com, the Phuket News, facebook.com, Phuket Live Radio. There is a photo of Miss Anocha at age 23. A remarkable story. More news on the way. This is the Phuket News Hour.
Your daily news fix, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. only on Live 89.5.
The Kids Club Phuket are the proud sponsors of the Phuket News Hour. It is a great place for your kids to have the best fun. Train nannies on the premises to make sure your kids are safe and well. A terrific parents' lounge with Wi-Fi. But hey, mums and dads, drop the kids at the Kids Club Phuket, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m, 7 days a week. Go off and have a kid-free lunch. Go and get your nails done. Do the shopping. Go to the beach and let the kids have the best fun at the Kids Club Phuket. Don't forget too, TKC Party Supplies. The Kids Club Phuket have the best party supplies on the island. That's for all age birthdays. Where? The Kids Club Phuket, opposite Jung Salong, underground parking available, 800 square metres of fun, fully air-conditioned. The Kids Club Phuket. Check them out, thekidsclubphuket.com or facebook.com, The Kids Club Phuket.
Live 89.5, your island, your station.
Moving to Myanmar, the former Burma, over 100 election hopefuls, mostly minority candidates, were knocked out of the running in the Union Election Commission's final list, with citizenship status by far the most of the stumbling blocks faced by candidates, according to the Myanmar Times. The final list was short 124 rejected candidates, according to the Commission's announcement. November's election, which is November the 8th, promised to be the most free and fair in over half a century, prompting a deluge of applicants. 6,189 potential candidates representing 92 political parties, as well as independent pollsters, submitted their credentials to the UEC. Now, after an application scrutiny period, the UEC's delayed list enumerated 6,065 candidates, with the ruling party one of just a few to have escaped the District's Commission's inspections unscathed. So there are a lot more candidates that wanted to run in the November 8th Myanmar elections, but this scrutiny by the Election Commission has limited that. Now, candidates from the National League for Democracy and a handful of other parties were rejected on the grounds of not meeting a 10-year residency requirement. So, challenges have been struck right across the candidate list, including Muslim candidates were struck from the list amid growing fervour from hardline nationalist groups like Ma Ba-Ta, which prompted votes for only national ethnic contestants as opposed to foreigners. We'll keep following that story about the Myanmar elections, but it looks like there is a limit to the number of candidates that can run based on the amount of time that they've been in Myanmar and on their citizenship status. More news on the way. This is the Phuket News Hour.
Today's important stories and the island's best music. This is the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw.
Looking at two very interesting stories about the city-state of Singapore, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Singapore buries only a fraction of its garbage. Now, this nimble, wealthy city-state, crammed on an island 3.5 times the size of Washington, D.C., sends only 2% of its solid waste to landfills. It burns 38% of it to generate electricity and recycles the remaining 60%. It's a model that other cities would do well to emulate. Still, in Singapore, no country has such a robust water-saving system as there is in Singapore, where half the land area is equipped to capture rainwater in gutters, barrels, tanks and reservoirs. Now, the most sophisticated of these systems is at the Changi Airport. Between 28 and 30% of all water used in the airport comes from captured rainwater, which is stored into reservoirs. A fantastic story about recycling in Singapore. I wonder where else in ASEAN and in Asian nations could we do the same thing. More news on the way. This is the Phuket News Hour.
Your daily news fix, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. Only on Live 89.5.
That is the Phuket News Hour for today. Australia has a new Prime Minister-elect, Malcolm Turnbull. 57 challenged Tony Abbott, 54, the incumbent Prime Minister. That took place overnight. You'll catch all that news on the BBC. Thank you for your company here on the Phuket News Hour. This program produced and presented by Tim Shaw, associate producer Chara Revitt, with the resources of the BBC, the Phuket News Centre and the World Wide Web. Stay tuned to Live 89.5 for all the stories making news right through the day. And don't forget too, the catch-up program 6 a.m. tomorrow, and check out the podcast on PhuketLiveRadio.com. Until we speak again, have a great remainder of the day. Bye for now.
This is the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw. Join the conversation on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Phuket Live Radio.